for our budget, and we are going to be listening to everyone today. We do have a very short special presentation from the staff that will come in a moment, and I do want to say to you that that in no way will take away any time from the citizens. We will be here as long as we need to be here to hear from everyone that wants to speak. So with that, I just want you to understand that to start with. You know, budgeting is probably the most difficult task that we have as a city council, and it seems to become more challenging every year. And it's the basis of all the public services that we provide. The city's budget is diverse and is much time driven by mandates from the federal and state government without the financial support for us to pay the bills. Ultimately, there are two ways to balance a budget, and that is to either reduce services or to raise taxes, of which no one wants either one of those. That is a very difficult choice to make, and something that I think people need to understand, that you need to tell us what you want us to do. We want to hear from you tonight. What is it the citizens that pay the taxes want us to do as far as what services we offer and how we put the money together? I do want to bear in mind just a few things. 6 years ago, we were spending more than we took in. We were not transparent with our budget. We were violating our numerous financial policies that had lessened our financial strength, and we were not following our own best financial practices. Therefore, we had deficits in several of our funds. We had inadequate fund balance, meaning that we were sometimes missing the cash to pay our bills. There was no bigger picture of a financial analysis and planning. The financing of all of our capital needs was being financed. There was no cash put into anything. Today we do have cash going into those items. And we used many one-time revenues to pay our bills. So we've attempted to come up with better practices and to work harder to get toward that AAA that will in fact give us savings, that will in fact allow us to reinvest back into our city. And so with that, I just wanted to lead off saying that we will have a brief staff presentation. Madam Manager, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. At this time, in this room, our Finance Director will come forward and make the presentation.
Good evening. In the interest of all the speakers that we have here tonight, I'm really going to try to talk fast. So you all stop me, of course, if I'm moving too quickly. But I do have a couple of things we want to cover as far as what is in the city's operating capital budget, so that people are aware of where we do have choices and maybe some areas where we do not, prior to getting up and giving you input on the budget. So first I'll start off with this slide, certainly just to tell you a little bit about our budget development process. I'm not going to walk through all the dates here, but basically we begin this process in December. All the departments have to submit detailed budget requests with supporting every single dollar that they ask for. We spend the months of February listening and going through all those committee meetings. March, we begin the deliberation process. We anticipate receiving the school board's budget request on March 29th. The April 3rd meeting is where we plan to have the city manager's budget presented to City Council. We also will hold a public information meeting the week after that, just to make sure that all the public is aware of what has been proposed in the budget prior to the public hearing that will be held on the 17th. And then, of course, the first opportunity for adoption by City Council will be May 1st. So with that said, in the budget, it's a little difficult when you look at any budget the size of the city, but there's some budget facts that everyone should be aware of. Much of the city's spending is really due to costly mandates. These are mandates from the state and the federal government that tell us services that we must provide to our citizenry. And over the years, usually those mandates will begin with revenues from the federal and state government to support them, but then slowly they whittle away. And the reason that becomes important at the local government is because you are the last link in the chain. And so ultimately, while you don't have a choice of providing those services, you must come up with the money to pay for those services. And so in this chart, we simply show you that the state and federal funding is really less than half of total budget as we put it together. But when we talk about all the mandates, the majority of the city's budget is made up by mandates either from the state or federal government. And so a few of those very quickly. As we look into some of the requirements of our city departments, our planning department, our inspections department, our stormwater and traffic engineering are all required to do plan reviews of all new construction. They have to look at the impacts of development on the city prior to any of those being approved. In our inspections department, we have to go out and look at all of the new construction that occurs, both at the plumbing, at the electrical, to make sure that those structures are safe for our public and safe as well in our environment. We are required, of course, to put funding in to test our drinking water and also to provide services for the sewage that we manage here in the city. And those services are mandated through our Public Utilities Department funding as well as our Health Department funding. We have to provide for refuse disposal of all of the trash of our citizens and our businesses. We're mandated again to do that by the state and federal government. That is done through our refuse division and our Public Works Department. And again, that's done to manage disease and environmental impacts on our citizens. We're required to provide 911 emergency, police, fire, and rescue response to our citizens as well. And so that's to make sure that our citizens are safe, that there's protection of the property for which they own. We also have to give animal control services, which means management of all of our family friends and making sure that when we do take those into our control, that they are appropriately serviced by veterinarians and with all of the immunizations that are required, again, by state and federal law. We're required as a locality to provide jail and juvenile detention services. The city has a regional jail. We also, of course, pay for juvenile services to Chesapeake. Those are very expensive services, and again, we're mandated by law to do that. Basically, anyone who comes through the court system, we're required to pay for the housing of those individuals while they are in custody. We're mandated through our Health Department and our Social Services Department, as well as our Western Tyler Mental Health Services Board, to provide for child welfare through for our foster children. We are required to pay for food and medical treatment services through the indigent. We are required as well to provide those mental health services through facilities or medication to those that are mentally challenged. We're required through mandates in our local funding to provide for court services. And so we, of course, we have a court facility here. We provide all the costs locally for running that facility, for all of the operational expenses, as well as some of the staff that provide services in there, whether it's prosecution of individuals or defense of individuals. We're mandated as a locality to provide services through our employment as well. We're mandated to provide workers' compensation for all of our employees, unemployment, as well as health insurance for our city employees. And we also are bound by certain laws against state and federal to administer all of our personnel within compliance with certain legal parameters. And that includes, of course, all of our hirings, terminations, as well as management of those personnel while they're in our workplace. All of these things have an expense that are associated with those. We also provide mandates through the locality for our assessment office. We're required to reassess property every so often through certain laws and regulations. And that has to be done to bring uniformity to the taxation to our citizens. We're mandated by state and federal laws to do certain periodic financial reporting for our citizens, as well as our businesses and our bondholders, the people that have bought the bonds that we've sold to build our facilities. We have expenses in the city budget that are mandated to provide for our voter registrar's office. Again, that's for making sure that we comply with all the laws relative to state and federal mandates for those elections. Also, we have expenses that we have to pay for relative to public notices and responding to Freedom of Information Act requirements. We have expenses related to education and other services for our children, which would include those with disabilities. So this chart right here really just takes all the dollars that it takes to run the city of Suffolk. If you layer all of the funds together and you look at everything that gets spent to provide these services in our city, this is how we would divide that pie up. As you look at this chart, you'll see we have education that represents about 50% of the total funding in the city. Public safety comes in second at 16%. We have certain debt service requirements, which are payments of principals and interest for debt that we may have issued 20 years ago, but we have commitments to continue to make those payments, much like in our personal lives we do with our mortgage. We have road maintenance expenses. We're required to maintain our roads. Again, health and welfare we spoke about, public works, etc., all around that pinwheel there. So as we look at the budget, and again we spoke about how the majority of the funding goes towards what we call mandated services, there are some services that are discretionary, but many will focus on those dollars and think, well, we can reduce there to balance the budget. But what you have to consider is, that saying penny wise, pound foolish. We need to think about how those dollars actually can mitigate some of our other costs or bring returns on that investment if we make them. So I want to talk a little bit about what we call discretionary funding that is in the city budget. A couple of examples. We include funding for local grant match. We have about $300,000 that we do put into the city budget. Those dollars, again, not mandated, but for every dollar that we put in, we get $6 back. So for that $300,000 appropriation, we receive about $1.8 million in state and federal funding. That funding is used to help us to provide for those mandates that we just spoke about. In public safety, usually, that's also health and welfare. It's all over the map. But that's a great investment of dollars that help us to balance our budget and meet the needs of our citizens. We also do invest funding in technology through either hardware or software acquisitions. Again, that helps us to be more efficient, whether we're using document imaging software, which helps us to cut down on building space and storage needs, or if we use the computers, the software to do computerized processing, which allows us to eliminate or even mitigate against additional personnel as we move forward. Number one, technologies. Again, we talked about mandates there. We've been able to leverage technology to help us to do that in a more efficient fashion with less resources at a higher response to our citizens to help with life-saving measures. Again, looking at other areas that we have in the budget, building maintenance. Again, it's an area that many people will say, well, why do we spend so much there? Well, if we put money into building maintenance, it allows us to put off costly facility replacements down the road. So the budget, again, in prudence in building a budget, you want to make sure that you're financing those things that help you to save money down the road. Insurance, certainly in the budget, we do provide for insurance payments. Again, we'd rather insure our property than have it be damaged and have to completely replace that, or vehicles in those situations. We also include, as the mayor mentioned, a series of funding that help us to address compliance with our best management practices or our financial policies. Whether that be, of course, paying for our debt. We wouldn't want to miss a debt payment because that would mean default on bonds. When we default on bonds, we're not going to be able to borrow the money to build facilities. The better we are running the city financially, the cheaper the interest costs that we receive, the more we can put money into those services for our citizens. We have included, of course, money in the city's budget for workforce development, as well as city marketing and the development of brochures. Those funds, while very, very small, really give a huge return as far as the ability of the city to attract new businesses and to create jobs for our citizens. Jobs, of course, mean that we are mitigating those costs that we spoke of earlier in this presentation. We are funding a bus service in our city, again, that helps us to provide to our citizens access to jobs as well as those essential needs and health services that they may need. Again, that makes for more independent living for our citizens and helps us then defray other costs should they not have that access. We do provide, again, a small amount of money that we put into our tourism. Tourism dollars actually reap benefit probably eightfold to every dollar that you invest. As we bring visitors into the city, those are visitors who come and support our local businesses. Those local businesses that are helping us with the taxes that we need, offsetting what we have to charge our residents. And it's, again, those are the services that we don't have to provide government expense services to those who don't live in our city. So we like tourism because it does help us to provide a balance in the revenues that we need. We do put funding into parks, recreation, and library programs. Again, that helps us with producing productive youth. It keeps them busy. That way they're not out here maybe getting into some things that would cause us expenses. On the other hand, whether it be youth crimes, we do have some very extensive programs that promote sports and fitness of our citizens. Again, healthy citizens are what we want as a community because there are costs associated with unhealthy citizens. We also provide financial support for certain nonprofit organizations. Again, not a lot of money, but those investments in these nonprofits reap benefits back for our city. We cannot provide these services as cheaply as these organizations can. They, again, are able to leverage through either regional programs or what have you. And some of the examples here are the city's homeless shelter, the city's Western Town River Free Clinic, the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission, which does a series of regional studies. It helps us with some of those state and federal mandates that we have to address, and domestic violence shelter. So this slide, what I did here was I just took all of the local taxes. I took all the state and federal and simply looked at all the local taxes that are generated in the city. And we've talked about all of the mandates as well as the discretionary spending in the budget. And when you look at this dollar, what you see is 34 cents of every local dollar, not to include state and federal, goes towards education. 28 cents towards public safety, 8 cents towards payment of our principal and interest requirements, 8 cents towards the health and welfare, again the foster care and the mental health services and health services, 6 cents towards general government, which again covers your registrar, your commissioner of revenue, your treasurer, your capital programs, 4 cents towards parks and recreation, 4 cents towards judicial and court services, 2 cents towards our public works, which is our buildings and our buildings and our landscaping, 2 cents towards what we call capital pay-go, which is again making sure that we are not financing all of the needs of the city, but also putting in a small amount of recurring revenues towards those needs. 2 cents towards community development, which is our inspections and our planning services and economic development. 1 cent towards what we call non-departmental, which is basically your unemployment and some of your risk insurances, and 1 cent towards those local and regional partnerships that leverage those services we're mandated to provide. There are a couple of areas that I routinely will receive some feedback, and sometimes I'll hear, well, if we could just cut all of the professional services of the city, that might help us to balance our budget. And what I wanted to show you here, of the $175.5 million that the city spends in its general fund, $1.4 million, a very small sliver of that goes towards professional services. And sometimes people will think, wow, that sounds like a luxury, professional services. When you actually drill down and start looking at what professional services are within the city, those are those engineering service reviews. We talked about those plans reviews that we have to provide as a government of various development activities. We have $456,000 in professional services that go towards those mandated reviews. Additionally, we talk about public safety. Our public safety, fire, and police are mandated to have polygraphs and physicals. Again, those have to be provided by a third party. So we have, this is $123,000 that provides that for the entire city. We're mandated to have independent auditing services to provide independent financial reports to our citizens and to our bondholders. That, again, is a small sliver of funding that's mandated to be provided through professional services. Our vet care and our animal control care, these, again, are the immunizations or services for our animals. They're mandated, and those are provided through a professional services line item. And I could go on, but basically when you look at this, there's not discretionary funding in any of this. When we look at the breakdown of what we call operational support, again, we have a $175 million general fund. About $3 million of that goes towards operational support. This is everything from the telephones that we take citizens' calls on, that we deal with the public, that we do the business of the city, to our office supplies, which again is it's less than 1 penny. Printing costs, again mandated printing costs to produce documents. Uniforms for again our fire and our police and our public works refuse staff. Travel and training, it's another area that I hear some feedback on. The entire city, we have $267,000 in travel and training. And all of that is fire and police and teaching them how to handle a gun before we put them out into the workforce, police force, teaching them what to do if they go into a burning building. It's mandated training services for the programs that we provide. So I just wanted to try to educate a little bit about what is in the budget in those areas. Also wanted to just provide to the public how we do benchmark against communities in the region. This is a bar chart that shows all of the cities in Hampton Roads. You'll see that Suffolk is at 97 cents per 100. That is second only to Virginia Beach, who is at 95 cents per 100. Some of the challenges that we know that we're facing with the development of this budget, we do have about a $2 million loss in real estate values. Those are the tax values, which equates to about 2.5 cents of the real estate taxes. So without any adjustment, our citizens will see a 2.5 cent reduction in their tax rate, barring any action.
Increase, not reduction.
Just wanted to share with you as well, and we mentioned that we have already gone through the submission process of the budget. We have received increased funding requests from all of our service partners. When you add all of those up, I put at the very top, we have the school division at $9 million. Local and regional organizations have requested another $3.7 million. Risk and insurances are up $2.8 million. Fleet and fuels, 1.5, and on and on. It's about $15.2 million of increased funding requests if you were to fund everything that's been requested. That would equate to a 23 cent increase on the tax rate. which basically would make us look like this. That would take us to $1.22, making us second only to Portsmouth. So these are the facts of the city budget. I wanted to just share that with everyone so that there's hopefully a better understanding of the complexities of developing a budget, why it is so difficult to balance service needs with taxation, and certainly staff is available to answer any questions should there be any.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please review the guidelines for public comment period, which we got again?
Each speaker is asked to provide their name and home address and will receive 5 minutes to address City Council. Each speaker will be notified when they have 1 minute to conclude their remarks and be advised when their allotted time has expired. If you are representing a specific group, please provide that information as well. Additionally, if there are a number of individuals who are here for the same organization, please designate a spokesperson to represent your concerns. Each spokesperson will have an opportunity at the conclusion of their remarks to ask their supporters to stand and be recognized. And again, each speaker will receive 3 minutes to address City Council.
We're going to open this back door so we can have a little more space in here in just a minute so we can find the other room. The floor is now open to individuals who wish to speak. Please provide your name and address, and each speaker will be given 3 minutes. Will the first speaker please come forward?
Good evening, Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor, City Councilman. My name is Wendell Foster, and I reside at 313 Page Place here in the city of Suffolk. I bring you greetings from the Education Association of Suffolk, Virginia, where I serve as president and currently a teacher at John Yates Middle School. Also, I am a proud parent of a daughter who attends Suffolk Public School. It is with great sadness that I come to you this evening asking that the City Council consider their decision on the school board proposed budget. We acknowledge that there are many challenges facing our city, and the budget is of great concern to the employees of Suffolk Public Schools. For the past 5 years, there have been a surplus of funding in the budget, and it appears that the school system is not a part of that surplus. Also, over the last 2 years, Suffolk has ranked last or near last in local support above the state required local effort. Norfolk, Portsmouth, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, Isle of Wight, and Franklin all support public education at a higher percentage above the required local effort than does Suffolk. Yet our students or our children must compete against those various students for scholarships, college acceptance, jobs, and how is this fair to the students in Suffolk? Why is it that Suffolk is the only city in Hampton Roads where the school division pays for the salary and benefits of all resource officers in the schools? That costs between $300,000 to $400,000 per year. Why does Suffolk require the school division to pay tens of thousands of dollars for fees pertaining to building the new schools when other cities waive those fees? Why does Suffolk require the school division to pay tens of thousands of dollars each year for surcharge on gas and parts, and the school division charges only what only costs them to gas the fire trucks at their pumps? Given the huge budget deficit our schools are facing for next year, the city revenue increase while funding to public schools decrease as a percent of the city's operating budget. How can anyone realistically think that our school district can compete with the surrounding districts? In the February 21st Virginia Pilot article, Councilman Mike Dumas stated, and I quote, he was somewhat miffed by the division request, considering that the city provided the school with $5 million extra dollars, including the $2 million one-time funding for the current year. He challenged the board to consider its priority. The question is, what is Mr. Dumas' priority? The state composite index says that Suffolk can pay more for public education, yet other cities pay at a higher percentage. Does this say that public education is not a priority in our city? It is amazing that no one can see the tremendous challenge and the obstacles we are asked to overcome every year. The teacher and staff have not been fairly compensated in over 5 years, and the teachers are asking to do more with less funding, and that's not right. Is it 5?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I thought it was 30 seconds.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we gave you the 1 minute.
1 minute? Okay.
Right. We gave you the 1 minute, and now your time's expired.
Can I do the last 2 seconds? Please.
Go ahead, but we need to make sure that everybody gets their time this evening.
Okay.
We're
I implore that the City Council make education a top priority in the upcoming budget decision. A funding boost to help adequately pay teachers will make the city more attractive to prospective residents and businesses and help the division to excel. With kind regards, Wendell Foster, President, Educational Association of Suffolk. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor Brown, and members of City Council. My name is Tara Williams-Moore. I reside at 818 North Liberty Springs Road in Suffolk, and I am currently the principal at Northern Shores Elementary. I'm here tonight to speak in regards to the proposed 2013-2014 Suffolk Public Schools budget. As you know, according to the state and the composite index figures, it has been noted that Suffolk's government is able to fund the school system's needs. Our city is growing economically. Dr. Whitney and the school board continue to submit budget proposals that focus on student achievement to ensure that all students' needs are met. Last year, I shared information regarding the school board's mission and goals and how losing support staff such as paraprofessionals would impact achieving goals. Even with the compromise last year, at least 5 paraprofessionals were given RIP letters at my school alone. This doesn't include the non-replacement of a general education paraprofessional who left in October 2012 and the one who retired at the end of the school year in June 2013. The question is not how are Northern Shores Elementary School and other schools going to grip budget cuts this year if you don't fully fund the budget. We have long felt the cuts before now, but rather, how will we continue to feel and address the cuts? It's been brought up that in the past that we as educators will continue to step up and get the job done without the increases and resources. With the loss of paraprofessionals, schools have looked to parents, volunteers, and community stakeholders to fill our needs. At Northern Shores, we have partnered with many businesses and organizations such as the U.S. Coast Guard to assist with remediation of math skills in grades 4 and 5. However, when the Coast Guard cutters go out to sea, so do many of our volunteers. Staff members are working diligently to ensure our students continue to meet and exceed the benchmarks set forth by the state, many times accommodating students' needs with their own resources. And yes, the newspapers share accolades from the schools across the district. Suffolk Public School students and staff continue to be successful. It's our nature to ensure that your future citizens receive a quality education. However, I find it hard to think that in the business world you wouldn't celebrate your employees' accomplishments by providing support resources, human resources, and pay increases. Additionally, you certainly wouldn't continue to use outdated equipment or technology knowing your competitors were utilizing the most improved. In conclusion, I'd like to share that I am the mother of a 14-year-old son who attends Lakeland High School and a 10-year-old son who attends Southwestern Elementary. I guess you could say I have the city covered from the southern end to the northern. I believe in the Suffolk Public Schools motto, every child a star, together we help them shine. I have been a resident of Suffolk my entire life and have vested my time, energy, and enthusiasm for over 20 years in public education, the past 18 in Suffolk. I ask that the two governing bodies, the school board and city council, come together so that not only will my 2 sons continue to shine, but the 780 students at Northern Shores and the 14,000 across the city. Remember, it's a good time to be in Suffolk. Collaboratively, we need to ensure that Suffolk stays the great place that it is. It's the students of today that make us shine tomorrow. Thank you.
Johnson and council members, my name is Elliot Joyner. I reside at 530 Lake Kilby Road, Suffolk. And I'm here tonight to offer 8 suggestions for reducing the budget in the city of Suffolk. Matter of fact, I know you won't remember these 8, so I have brought each of you a copy of what I am recommending. All right? Suffolk needs to reduce its spending and reduce taxes, not increase them. The reason for the revenue shortfall is not a lack of revenue, but an out-of-control spending. The city manager seems to have one purpose, and that is to build a large bureaucracy so it helps her resume, or that's the way it seems to me. She has managed to replace almost all of the old Suffolk employees with new ones that don't have a clue about this city. And they have no past to bring to the table as we discuss or deal with city business. I propose the following steps to reduce the current spending. The citizens of Suffolk will experience no diminished services. I repeat, no diminished services, nor will their quality of life be lowered. That's good news to everyone, I hope. As a matter of fact, life will improve if these things are implemented, and the school teachers will have the money they need. First, hire a city manager who has a business background, not a bureaucrat brought in here to build a bureaucracy. Cut the Parks and Recreation Department by 50%. Probably could be cut more than that. Cut the police department by getting rid of all unnecessary people and equipment. An example of this would be the public police boat, the SWAT bus at $675,000, and to cut overhead in the police department by 20%. I'm not talking about these guys that are out on the beat every day. I'm talking about overhead.
Excuse me, Mr. Joyner, you're down to 1 minute.
Okay. Stop unnecessary driving of these fire vehicles all around town. The amount of money we're spending there. Cut public works by 50% and then contract out these jobs to professionals. The roads in the city of Suffolk are in the worst condition I've seen them in my 68 years here, and they only get worse. And it's because we have people that don't know what they're doing. Lastly, reduce the city vehicles by 50%. We have enough city vehicles to just about put every person in the city government on the road. We don't need that. In conclusion, I have a home in Currituck, North Carolina that is twice the value of my home in the city of Suffolk. My taxes are 1/2 what they are in Suffolk. My city services include water, sewage, garbage collection twice a week. And in Suffolk, I have none of that. I don't have any water, any sewage, and the road I live on is a disaster. Thank you.
Stand for you, please. Stand for you.
Will you give these up?
Yes, sir, I will. Stand for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Great. God, send your man.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, I am Janet Phillips, 102 Delta Court, Suffolk. Thank you for the opportunity to talk this evening, and I would like to start with a quote. Progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. Now, perhaps more than ever, at any time in our history, it is important that we come together and embrace change with open hearts and open minds, as the capability and capacity to change is going to be necessary to continue to move the city forward. This was stated in the 2012 State of the City address from Mayor Johnson. I fully agree that it is time to embrace change. When City Council comes together to complete this year's budget, please take the time to remember that school enrollment has increased by over 8%, while the money allocated to public schools has decreased. According to the 2012 Citizen-Centric Report from the city website, tax revenue has increased while the per student expenditure has decreased in the city. The school board has had to make the difficult choice of cutting personnel due to the city not fully funding the school board budget. The Suffolk Economic Development Department, under the supervision of Mr. Kevin Hughes, has managed more than 120 new and expanding business projects, totaling more than $403 million in capital investment and more than 3,250 new jobs. As Mr. Hughes can point out, businesses invest in cities where there are numerous opportunities for growth, relying on a strong workforce. Keeping a strong workforce and bringing in personnel from outside the area is directly related to the school system. Mayor Johnson can attest to the correlation. I'm sorry, skip today. According to the Realtor Association, a nice home is not a need, it is a luxury. One can live in a less spacious, older place at the same price as a newer home in order to give the kids the advantage of being in a higher rated school district that has higher expectations of its students. Mayor Johnson can attest to the correlation between the school district and the value of the homes for time as a realtor for Prudential Town Realty. Our own home has increased in value, while our neighboring cities' home values have not increased at the same rate. Suffolk Public Schools is fully accredited, and that is a tribute to the hard work of the staff doing more with less. I ask that the City Council fully fund the proposed school board budget, and as the Mayor stated during the State of the City address, progress is possible. Progress is impossible without change. It is time the city works with the schools for progress and moves the city forward. Madam Mayor and honorable City Council members, please follow through on your commitment in the 2012 State of the City address. You said when we are talking about public education, we are talking about investments in our youth. We feel so strongly about the importance of this investment that we have appropriated $60 million, which is 50% of the total citywide budget to the Suffolk Public Schools for our next school year. This is an increase of 11.3% over current school funding. I hope that you remember this when you're going through the budget this year, and I thank you, and the public school's daughter thanks you for your investment in her future.
My name is Lauren McGee. I reside at 1017 Maryland Avenue. I'm a resident of the Suffolk Borough and a teacher with Suffolk Public Schools. I'm here to urge you to give your full support of the Suffolk Public Schools budget. Everyone is doing more with less. However, when it comes to the education of my personal students and my two sons as well, I find that doing more with less is unacceptable in educating our children. In my school, we have pulled from every resource possible, parent volunteers and community stakeholders, to ensure our students are still receiving a top-notch education with limited funds. My family and I moved to Suffolk over 6 years ago, and it disheartens me to see that I have moved to a city that does not put education as its top priority. I'm asking you to invest in the children of Suffolk, so that one day when they grow up and have a family, they will want to continue to live in a city that invests in its future. I hope you are listening to your citizens this evening and will fully fund the school board's budget requests. If you are a student, parent, or teacher with Suffolk Public Schools, would you please stand? Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. My name is Frank Hayden. I reside at 9000 River Crescent, Cedar Point, North Suffolk. I'm here to speak to the budget issue and specifically to the funding request from the school board, and I urge the City Council to fully fund the request submitted by the school board, especially with regard to all the prior speakers, specifically with the first speaker. A lot of the wind was taken on myself, so I just want to highlight a couple of numbers that I think are especially important, especially since I've asked various members of City Council in the past how Suffolk stands up to its peer localities and cities in the area in terms of public education and funding. First, I want to point out, I think it was mentioned in one of the graphs here and in the one out there, they talk about how 50% of the city budget is devoted to education. That is correct when you count the federal and state dollars put in there. When you look at what the city of Suffolk spends on its general fund, we're down to 27%. So it is a much different picture when you look at what the city's funding from its loan uncollected revenues. Something else I'd like to point out. In the 2009-2010 year, schools were funded at the amount of $44,724,978. Today, in the adopted 2012-2013 budget, the school were funded from the general funds at $47,163,719. In inflation-adjusted dollars, that's less than what you funded the schools at in 2009. That's appalling. So actually, you nominally have approximately $4 million increase. In inflation-adjusted dollars, you're paying the schools less to do more when their costs have gone up. Secondly, and this is the part that just always gets me. In 2012, and I pulled this from the state's Department of Education website, Suffolk was last in terms of how it funded its school systems, and I'm talking about the percentage of required local matches, standards of quality, and lottery accounts. And I think this pretty much says it all. Suffolk exceeded its required amount by 58%. Portsmouth by 106%. Do I need to go through the rest of the city? Yes. Okay. Virginia Beach by 118%. Chesapeake by 121%. Gloucester by 70%. Just thought I'd throw that one in there. York County by 120%. Hampton by 88%. Norfolk by 85%. You did beat Newport News. I wouldn't really be proud of that record. I think that there's a lot more that the city can do. I think that education is an investment in our future, and I think more directly, it's an investment in the success and economic viability of this city as a whole. If you want to attract business, strong businesses that are qualified and educated and workforces, you need to have an education system that can provide that, and that they can, and those people who come and work here can feel comfortable putting their kids in those school systems. Thank you for your time.
Hinton, former school board member, address 2210 East Washington Street, apartment H-N4, Suffolk, Virginia. Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor Brown, City Manager Celine Coverdale, and all City Council members. I'm here this evening to talk on behalf of my concerned fellow school board colleagues, bus drivers, teachers, custodians, and administrators. But the most of all that I'm here to talk about is the children. After going through my book, the budget book, I requested a school board budget book, and I went thoroughly through this book. But what really seems to bother me the most, City Council members, is the special needs children. On page 26, the federal dollars will be gone, the stimulus money. And as we all know, we need to catch the children while they're young, preschoolers. And so I want to encourage you all this evening to please take a look at the $9 million fully funding the school system. And if not, I understand the negotiation piece of it. Not negotiable for the school system, but I am saying I'm going to use some common sense as well. You ask for more than what you want to get, but if not, please give them $5 million or $5.5 million. But I really want the $9 million for Suffolk Public School. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Brady Maria. I live at 412 Waterville Crescent. I'm here to tell you all we do not want any more taxes. We can't afford to have our property taxes raised. My husband is retired military. His retirement check barely covers our mortgage as it is, and he's working part-time because it's the only job he can find here in our great city of Suffolk. The only job he can find. We can't afford raising our property taxes. I think there are plenty of ways we can cut some of the spending in Suffolk. For example, there's no reason that the city has to be funding the city manager's health care insurance at 100%. Okay, she makes $3,000 more right now than the governor of the state. We don't need to be funding her health care 100%. She can that goes for her retirement fund as well. We don't need to be funding that either. And if she loves the city of Suffolk, then she should agree with me that we don't need to be paying her all that much, because after all, the city of Suffolk's going to need money this year. We're going to be 2 million, 3 million, well, the pilot said 3 million, underfunded this year. She should be able to agree with me if she loves Suffolk that much. If she doesn't love Suffolk that much, then maybe she needs to go. Along with that, we really don't need to be dropping money for a library this year. Ms. Mayor Johnson, you said in the chat that you had on the pilot that the whole reason we were doing the library now was because it had been in the CIP for a long time. And it was about time. It had been pushed off long enough. We still don't have the funds for it. So we don't need to do it yet. It can be pushed off longer. It's been pushed off this long. It can be pushed off longer. Another thing is the city vehicles. Like Mr. Joyner said, we have way too many. We do not need that many city vehicles. Y'all can share. And no more pay raises. I'm not talking about the little VRS funded stuff, the little 2% that everybody's got to get for the VRS thing that the state mandated. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the double-digit 14% and up pay raises. That needs to stop.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello. My name is Melissa Stoker. I live at 1432 Shady Grove Road in Suffolk. I'm coming to you as a mother of a first grader at Oakland Elementary School. I'm also the PTA president there. I also have a daughter who is 3. Her name is Claire. My first grader's name is Evan. And, you know, I'm not from this area. I can't attest to having grown up and being raised here. However, this has become our home. And a little bit about me, that's quite a statement. I've lived a lot of places, and for me to say that this is my home, this is the happiest I've ever been in my life, says a lot about Suffolk. And it says, my husband, I'm sure he'll at some point make this statement here for you, we're both really opinionated. It's truly a testament to the area, to the people, to the community, and we have found our place here, and we found our voice, and part of that is me standing here in front of you today. With my son and my daughter being the ages that they are, I'm looking at 7 more years at Oakland, just an elementary school. Never mind middle school and high school, should we stay in the area. That being said, I would like to challenge you. This council has a reputation, and it's not really something to be proud of, to be honest.
That's right.
And that's just as an outsider coming in. And I'd like to use this opportunity to challenge you to prove your critics wrong. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. And as a new person, you have an opportunity to prove me against what I've heard. And I would like to see you do that. I'd like to see you show us all that you're able to lead us, as we're obviously so desperately seeking. And I think that starts at the top and works its way down. Don't just meet the requests of the school board, exceed it. Don't just give $9 million. Give a little bit more. I'm not saying it has to be a lot more, but show us that you can meet our expectations. Show us that you can give us what we're asking for. My understanding, and I welcome to be proven wrong, is that make public, well, I'll say that for my last statement. If things continue, we're going to lose good educators, and that will result in good and upstanding citizens leaving with them. People like me, and people even if that have been raised here, will leave, because as much as we love Suffolk, we love our children more. Amen. Amen. And nothing is more motivating to me than my love for my children and my husband. And my last statement is that you'll be motivated to make Suffolk public schools so good that you'll send your own kids there.
Next speaker.
Good evening, Mayor Johnson and City Council members. My
My name is Deborah Topping, and I live at 219 King Charles Court. I'm the bookkeeper at Creekside Elementary, and I'm here to ask for full funding of the Suffolk Public Schools budget. One of the things I wanted to talk to you all tonight about is how the schools have tried to save money over the years. The school staff, I can assure you, has done everything in our power to save money, reuse, recycle, and conserve. We've made cuts in every area. I've heard members of the council say that the heating and air conditioning should be off when the building is empty. I can tell you for a fact that the schools are not heated or cooled when they're not in use. I know this because I have to submit a report each week to facilities and maintenance, listing every activity that's going on in the building after school hours. If it's not on that report, then they don't get heat and air. The students used to take 2 field trips per grade level per year. Then it was cut to 1, and now they don't get to take any field trips. We're living in an area rich in U.S. history, and our students no longer go to Jamestown, Williamsburg, Hampton Park. For some students, this was their only opportunity to see some of these historic locations to bring history to life. School staff members spend their own money to purchase items for their classrooms and students. We need to ensure that there's no reduction in staff. We must retain our quality staff members. Your school employees deserve the modest 2% cost of living increase that's included in this budget. School employees went 5 years with no pay increases at all. According to the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, June 30, 2012, over the past 11 years, Suffolk has outpaced its neighboring Hampton Roads cities in population growth by a wide margin. Where some saw a decrease in population, Suffolk grew by 34.6%. As of today, Creekside Elementary has 968 students. And with that new developments that are down the street from us, this number is growing almost daily. We've got to be able to provide the best for the students of Suffolk. Mr. Fawcett, I appreciate the fact that you came by the school the other day, and I hope that you have an appreciation for all of the wonderful things that are taking place each day in our public schools. And I invite any of you to please come by any day, and I'll be glad to show you around. I ask you this evening to please support your public schools by fully funding the Suffolk Public Schools budget. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Karen Joyner, 102 Riverside Drive, and I'm here representing the Food Bank in Southeastern Virginia. I don't have any prepared remarks. I just wanted to say a few words and hopefully speak from the heart about the most vulnerable in our community and what the food bank does for them. Similar to the 1 to 6 grant funding that you get from federal funds, at the food bank we're able to turn $1 into $6 worth of food. And that food includes the backpack program, the Kids Cafe program, the mobile pantry, Suffolk Healthy People that we're collaborating with the OBC Health Foundation and the Salvation Army, and many other food distribution programs within the city. So as you're looking at potential budget cuts, I hope that you will consider maintaining the level of funding for human service organizations such as the food bank. Because remember, nothing else matters if you're hungry.
Next speaker.
Mike Lane, 1200 Babb Road in Suffolk. Appreciate the opportunity to come here tonight. I wasn't quite sure what to expect this evening, so I just jotted down a few points I'd like to make and a few details, and I'll probably skip the rest. If you have it printed out, I'll hand that off to Jackson after I finish. I oppose raising real estate taxes to make up for any problems that may be, especially on rural lands that receive pretty few city services. I support the present citywide trash and recycling programs funded by the user fees as they are other than from real estate taxes, except that I don't think that unoccupied houses should be assessed for those fees. Nobody lives there and is generating any trash or recycling materials. That might be charged. I urge the city to retain its land use evaluation for rural properties and to reincorporate the recently deleted open space category for land use back into the program. think for those properties of legitimate agriculture, forestry, floodway, or other conservation use, I think the city should pursue solutions to the perceived problems or abuses that led to dropping that category, rather than eliminating it for everybody just to catch a few people making problems. There was the equation presented earlier about increased taxes or reduced services. I think a couple more things could be added in there. Increasing efficiencies and reducing costs. I think each department needs to, and they've probably done this to some extent, but go through and conduct a thorough review of its operations and procedures and eliminate redundant activities, particularly those that just constitute busy work, those that involve city vehicles or equipment. For instance, roadside mowing, I think that can be reduced except when it's needed. I just noticed yesterday morning that trash was part of a Dr. Street program that the road had recently mowed, and there was nothing to mow. You couldn't tell except for a chute of trash that it was even needed cutting. Last point was, I think there are opportunities to incorporate green infrastructure into consideration when planning, zoning, and development. I've got a book here that I just received the other day. I'd actually like to submit to you better for another topic to me. I attended a workshop back last fall and we just got this out. But I know the people at the Planning District Commission are familiar with it. And I think a lot of opportunities to use some of the concepts provided in here to reduce some of the mandates put on by EPA dealing with total maximum daily loads and things like that. I think that might reduce some of the costs that we're worried about. But anyway, I'll let other folks talk. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can this thing get low enough? Hi. Hello. My name is, and I would like to say no to higher taxes, because higher taxes means more spending. And well, I just don't want higher taxes. No more higher taxes.
Good job,
Good evening. My name is Natalie Street and I reside at 102 Lakes Edge Drive in Suffolk, Virginia. I'm speaking tonight to ask for a fully funded budget for next year. I'm currently a third grade teacher at Creekside Elementary School and a proud resident of the city of Suffolk. This is my second year teaching in Suffolk Public Schools, but my fourth year as an educator. Last year, I spent $1,300 of my own money to provide my students with resources to support their learning. So far this year, I've only spent $500. These funds are an out-of-pocket expense that betters my students by providing them with hands-on activities in different areas of learning, such as glue sticks, printer paper, construction paper, markers, crayons, science experience materials, just to name a few. Suffolk Public Schools believes every child is a star. Together we help them shine. In order to fit my students' needs and reach them at different peaks of learning, I must differentiate my instruction so that I can help each child succeed on their individual levels. If we as teachers are limited on resources, I'm afraid I can no longer reach into my own wallet to pay for the resources that my students need in order to help them succeed. I can no longer afford a $1,300 or $500 school year. I attended middle school and high school in Suffolk and found my education to be very beneficial, so much that it helped me to succeed in obtaining a master's degree and my dream job of teaching. The dilemma that our students, children, grandchildren, friends, and family of our schools are being faced with is once again being placed last on the budget totem pole. I spoke last year at the same budget meeting and shocked to see yet again, here we are, at another meeting deciding on whether we should fully fund a budget that will benefit our students' future. Fully funding this budget not only benefits the students, but helps develop stronger, more proficient, and skilled teachers in our district. For example, our current system uses PD 360, an online web program that allows teachers to share ideas, videos, lesson plans, to help support classroom learning. Instead of paying for a speaker to come in and speak to teachers, we are able to speak with teachers all around the world to gain more insight to what successfully works in their classroom instead of one speaker could give us in a day. Fully funding the school budget will also benefit the students by maintaining or reducing class sizes. I have a class size of 22. Do you know that our 4th grade class sizes are over 30 in the mobile unit? I do not find this to be favorable for our students' learning environment. Without a fully funded budget, I fear that our children will not shine like the stars that they are and show them a disservice and fade away if not given every opportunity that could be available. Every child is a star. Together we help them shine. Let's work together and fully fund next year's budget so our students can shine as bright. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Johnson, council, people, and our attorney. My name is Janet Gerwell, and I am at 105 Brewer Avenue, as I know many of you know. First thing I want to say is more for the people gathered here tonight than it is for y'all, and that is, please look forward because these are our employees. We do not work for them, they do work for us. Every opportunity I get, because it seems like at every budget meeting, at every school budget meeting, it is a continual area where it appears that you have forgotten. I am so devout, I think I'll give you the money to put that above the dais at City Council. We work for you. You just, I don't know, you just ignore it. I want to say to you there are many, many places that you can cut spending. Taxes being raised, what that facilitates is you get more money to waste. And I don't believe that that's really anything you need because I don't have more money for you to waste. I think let's talk about $3 million, Whaleyville Rec Center. Don't need it. Had a rec center there that y'all turned over to the Historic Society, which didn't need that, to be quite honest with you. And I've offered Councilman Miltier for his 36 years of service upcoming to just give me $200,000 and we would write Councilman Miltier across the existing building. We'd put lights on it and we'd put paillettes in it so it could be seen day and night. We can take care of it, but we don't need $3 million. To refurbish a school, we could not keep elementary students in. Creekside Rec Center being built 1.5 miles from what? Creekside Rec Center. Don't need it. We have a rec center there now. Until it is bursting at the seams with children, don't need it. I don't know how you run your house. Some of you know how you run your house. If you don't have the money, you don't go get a loan for it. If you don't need it, there are needs and wants. Okay, overcharging our school for gas and parts they need for their buses and gas to run them. We all know this is being done. All of those who bothered to show up to the mayoral debates this year, let's stop doing that. Where is it the city gets the right to make money on the school? What you do is you fund them and try to get it back. That's unfair. The students don't have paper. How do I know that? I got a 15-year-old granddaughter who's in honors English, and they don't have paper. I've offered to just go to Office Max and get it for them. They won't take my offer because Mayor Johnson says we got to give it to the City Council first, and she'll decide where it goes. Unfair. Too much money wasted in administrative raises. Let me tell you, there were a couple of great presidents in this country of ours. They provided excellent leadership, and instead of taking a salary, they turned their salary back into the government. The one we got sitting up there now could use to do it. He's a multimillionaire. If you went for a year without pay, would that hurt you? I think not. Most of you are either retired collecting a check or working collecting a check. Now I'm just talking about you guys. You make $15,000 a year, but I'm talking about the big dogs making what? $3,000 short of what our governor makes. I got tons and tons of suggestions. One of them, and I want you to hear this, is to become so transparent that we don't need pie charts and graphs and legalese to try to understand what you were saying. When you say a pen costs $1.98, I know what $1.98 is. Let's see if we can become that transparent.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm here to speak
in favor of continued funding for our Suffolk Fine Arts Commission. This tiny part of your budget you probably wouldn't even notice, but I'm going to bring it to your attention because this is one of those cases, as Ms. Seward said, where the money is returned to the city many-fold. I'm sorry, I'm Linda Bunch. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Linda Bunch. I live at 1697 Woolroyd Road, and I'm also the Executive Director of the Suffolk Fine Arts Commission. And speaking from the Suffolk Art League, and speaking from the Art League's point of view, the $2,000 that we annually receive through the commission, we return to the city 3, 4, 5 times over. We are able to leverage that tiny little bit of money to support programs that support economic development. They support jobs. They also support education. Many of the programs we do are placed in the schools at no cost to the school systems. So we support education. We also help to build our community, which is something that every community needs to come together to work for a common goal. And I feel like the arts is one of those things that really helps a community pull together and enjoy living in Suffolk. So thank you for your continued support of the Fine Arts Commission.
Wallace Johnson, 2886 Nancy Parkway, Suffolk, Virginia. Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor Brown, and City Manager. I come tonight to share with Council and hoping that you all will find a way to support the school board's budget. Our children is in desperate need of it. I had 4 children that graduated from the schools here in the city of Suffolk. I have 3 grandchildren that's attending these schools now. So anything that City Council can do to help support the school board's budget will be greatly appreciated. But the other reason I came tonight, I sit here tonight as I did last year when this budget project came up, and so many emphasis was put on what we should do and what we shouldn't do for our city manager. Until I've gotten to a point where I'm just fed up with it. If we're going to ask the city manager to give her money back, why not ask the school board superintendent to give his back? Let's be fair. Let's be fair. There are about 200 people down the street here at Livingston T that are going to keep their jobs because of what the mayor and the city manager did in terms of helping that company stay here in the city of Suffolk. I come tonight to tell you I got faith in each and every one of y'all that's sitting at that table tonight. I want you to know that, and I mean that from my heart. And I believe that there are others that are sitting here tonight feel the same way. Nothing is perfect. But if we get together and work together, we'll make it work. This is our city. We love our city. We love the people in this city. This is not a time to come up here and showboat and throw off on people because you have the opportunity of doing it. We are trying to make something work. Our children's future depends on it. Let's put all this other stuff aside and express how you feel about what the city council can do to help our school board. The gentleman that first came up had it right. Let's be honest and fair with each other. If there's more money that the city council has, let the public know. If there's more money that the school board has, let the public know. So that we can all come together and work together and make the job work. I believe in working together, moving forward, and if we do that, I believe everything will work out all right. God bless you all.
While the next speaker's coming forward, I just wanted to clarify one thing. This is not the budget hearing. This is just input. We don't even have a budget yet. We have not seen a budget yet, and we don't even have the school budget in our hand. So this is a meeting before. So I want y'all to understand that. This is for you all to be telling us we have not gotten to that point. I just want everybody to understand that.
Good evening. My name is Marion Flood, and I live at 4802 John T. Mullen Road in Whaleyville, Virginia.
very much proud to be a Whaleyvillian. I didn't see or hear this type of response when Robertson Elementary School was closed, and I'm quite disappointed because if every child is a star, we should have had some input from the community saying that that was a school full of students that were stars. Now they're on the corners 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning waiting to ride their bus to a school out of the communities, whereby many of their parents can't be participants in the school because of the distance and lack of transportation. I want to let you all know that, yes, we are pushing for what we refer to as the Whaleyville Recreation Center, not just for recreation and fun, but also because that will be our first response building. We no longer have a place for our residents if there should be a terrible storm that comes through and they feel their homes are not safe enough to stay in. So this particular facility will also help us to have a place whereby we can feel comfortable about going if there's a terrible storm or whatever devastating event that may come up. Also, we're looking at a computer lab. Many of our young people do not have computers or access to that type of technology. This will help them to do better, teachers, because if we're moving into the technological era, we need our young people to also have that training. So if we get a computer lab in the Whaleyville Recreation Facility, then our young people can come in after school. And I'm not just talking in the wind or what have you, because I tutor young people every Thursday in Mineral Spring Baptist Church every year around this time for about 6 weeks, because this is the time the parents get upset, scared, when they get the notices saying that their child may not move to the next grade. That's when they come, and that's when they call on me. I tutor in the facility or I tutor in my home, but I make sure they move forward. I just want to say to you, those of you who feel as though $3 million is too much, what does Whaleyville get? I've been living here for 5 years. I've seen things being taken away. So consider that when you start talking about Whaleyville and the recreation centers, consider what really Whaleyville has lost. And maybe you'll decide that it's not too much money to put into Whaleyville for our young people. Thank you so much.
Jacqueline Brooks. I live at 1305 Manning Road in Suffolk. My husband and I moved here to Virginia in 1997. We opted to live in the coasting while my husband served in the Navy because we liked the schools, we liked the rural. Once our kids graduated, we decided we needed to look for housing that was comfortable and not as far a drive for my husband as avoiding the HRBT. Suffolk has been wonderful. We've been here since 2010. We have enjoyed it. I can't speak about your schools. I don't know because our kids are no longer school age. But I will tell you that living out here in rural Suffolk is wonderful. We don't have water fees. We just had our garbage fees instituted, which I don't really appreciate, but whatever, I can live with it. Suffolk is smaller than any other South Side community, city, and yet you want to go ahead and have your salaries in line with cities that are far larger, with far more responsibility. From what I'm hearing tonight and what I've heard since we've moved here, the schools are not well treated. You need to support your future. What I would like to ask is that City Council go ahead and start setting an example for all the politicians at city, state, and federal level, and realize and remember, you are our employees. You are supposed to listen to us and act accordingly. There is no excuse for saying, well, we do this, and so therefore we have to have a car and health benefits and this and that. You didn't earn it. Not yet. I haven't seen it. I I would like you to go ahead and set an example by having your salaries lowered, especially the mayor and the city manager. And I would like to see the teachers paid much better so that they don't have to come hat in hand begging for money after they've been spending so much of their own money that's gradually been going down over the years. There is no justification. Just remember, you serve us, and you are not entitled to enrich yourself at our expense or have obscene benefits provided. Thank you and good night.
Hi, my name is Emily Clone. I live at 141 Chapel Drive in the Holland area of Suffolk. I'm not going to be as probably exciting as your past speakers, but first I want to start off with a quote from Benjamin Franklin. He said, "Investment in knowledge pays the best interest." And I do think that teachers are one of the most important assets that Suffolk has. It pays into our future. And, you know, I'm a product of Suffolk Public Schools and many friends that have children that are part of that process. However, I want to address it from a business perspective. I see that many other localities across the nation go forth and they try their best to reduce and recycle their expense. Every night when I pass a couple local schools, I see their lights are still on. I see city buildings that still have their lights still on. I see a couple things that we can cut that are just small that could add up to a teacher's salary or a couple extra pencils or some paper that they may be able to afford. So when I say that and I say to reduce and to recycle or to reuse, I'm looking at so many different things that the city could do to cut a cost here, or the school system could cut a cost there. What I don't see, however, is that I don't see, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see a line item budget with the school system. It's 50% of what our taxes pay. However, I would like to see how it's broken down. I don't know how we get that, but I would like to see it because there's something that we can cut to be able to pay raises for our teachers. I think that is incredibly important and the best investment that we can make. Having said that, I've been a lifelong Suffolk resident, and I could not tell you how excited I am that 10 years ago when I would drive down North Main Street, all the retail shops and businesses that we have are just incredible. And so I thank you for working very, very hard to be able to develop that. I do speak in support of the teachers and being able to get a raise, but you know, I think that the city and the schools alike could sit down and look to see where they can recycle or reuse or reduce costs, whether it be in lights, electricity, or minor costs, because they can add up very, very quickly. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christopher Stoker. My lovely wife Melissa came and spoke to you earlier. I have a couple of things to say. The first thing that I want to say is I want to implore you, please fully fund the Suffolk School Board's budget. I understand you don't have it yet. It will be coming to you. And my understanding of it isn't somebody, I'm sure everyone here will be able to correct me if I'm wrong. It seems as though the majority of us that are here are in favor of approving, if you didn't know already, the additional $9 million that the Suffolk School Board is asking for. The common theme that I have heard over many of the educators, many of our school board members is do more with less. Would you be able to do your job if you had less? I have a very pointed question for you as well, and mostly because I just don't know. How many of your children attend Suffolk School Board? I mean, how many of your children attend the Suffolk School Public Education? Or how many of them go to the private schools? We have some fantastic private schools in Suffolk. There's no doubt about that. Nancy and Suffolk, they have a great education system. It also costs more than it costs for me to go to college to send my first grader there. I went to college at Louisiana Tech University. I'm proud of being from Louisiana. I also came from a very rural background, much like Suffolk is, and I love being out in the country. I really do. It's great. I live in Suffolk. Mr. Doonan is my council member. I actually just friended you on Facebook, so for year after year, it seems as though the school board or the city council has said, okay, well, I understand this is what you're asking for, Suffolk Public Schools. However, we need to rein it in a little bit. We need to do more with less. We need to do more with less. We need to do more with less. Let's stop doing more with less. Our teachers are doing way more with a lot less. So I'm asking you, please, let them do more with more. Fully fund their budget so that they can do what they love doing. My son's teacher, she's great. She's fantastic. We talk to her on a regular basis. She emails us every week with his homework for him. You know, I mean, and he's in first grade. What kind of homework is he doing? You know, we're struggling with money. I mean, in his schoolwork, you're counting dimes and nickels. We're not counting dimes and nickels here. We're counting millions. And I'm asking you to please do what's right and fully fund the scope of the Suffolk Public School Board. I'm sure you've read the papers. You've seen what the school board has been trying to do. Mr. Austin, who's here, has been doing a great job trying to rein in and to find cuts where they can, and trying to, you know, stifle around the school board or the school openings and have the school buses, the number of school bus drivers reduced by 30. And that's a measure that they're willing to do more with less. So I'm asking you, please, let's do more with more. So, thanks.
I just said next speaker. Thank you.
Mike Dabrowski, 1015 Maryland Avenue, Suffolk City School Board. Mayor Johnson, Vice Mayor Brown, Manager of the facility in the Company Glen. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and speak with you tonight. And I'm not going to reiterate what's already been said. It's been said much better than I can say it, and I wholeheartedly support the efforts that have come before me. I would like to say that over 70% of what we're asking for is already mandated in many different programs that we've talked about already. The 2% raise, the VRS component, the health insurance addition, textbooks, insurances on our property. These are things that already are required of us. What I'm going to ask you to do is take a look at them and fund them as best you can. I think it's important that the people that have come here and spoken be heard the best way they can, and that would be in action. However, I would like to throw an idea out to you that we don't have to go through this, although it is a great display of public unity and political savvy. Every year, the opportunity of the budget. I think that if we can look at a funding formula that best suits the city and the schools, we could share the money in good times and suffer in bad times. We should. I think it's important that we look at something like this, as I mentioned before. But I think that not knowing how much that you all have, and you ask us how much we want, is not a good way to do things. And I think we could do it better in the future. And I appreciate your concern there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
My name is Jay Spencer. I reside at 6725 Crittenden Road, Suffolk area. Appreciate you all taking the time to listen to all of us this evening. Obviously, we're here because we care, and obviously, you're in your job because you care. And I am a small businessman in this city. I fortunately have a successful business, and I do well. But I also have 2 children, and I'm a believer in the public school system. I grew up in the Western Branch part of Chesapeake. I went to Western Branch schools, and they did me well. And there's no reason why Suffolk can't do well. So far, we've been extremely happy with the school system, the schools that my children are in. Blessed enough that my daughters do really well in school, and one of them was accepted to the IB program for this next year, which is wonderful. But if they don't get their funding, it's programs like that could possibly get the axe. And here we're trying to promote growth, and we're trying to promote business in our city. I know from myself, y'all get plenty of my money. And more and more each year because I've fortunately been doing better each year. But I do ask that you fully fund the school board, as has been brought out from all of these ones ahead of me. It is a shame that all of these other cities fund their schools at the percentages they do, and to have Suffolk mentioned as it is terrible. I love Suffolk, I love where I live, and have no intention of moving my business. And but I do hope that you all will listen to us and consider funding the school board.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Clifton H. Winborn. I've resided here for 83 years. And most of the people came up here spoke about education. And I think that should be, because that's the most important thing in any city, is educating the children. That is the base of everything. And I heard some people speak about salaries. I'm not into salary. If you get the person that deserve this salary, pay them. And we don't have the salary here for the teachers to get the quality. Not that I'm saying that we don't have teachers that are qualified and quality, but the better you pay people, the better people you can get. So I believe in paying, and I think the teachers are underpaid here. They are underpaid. And I think the emphasis should be on education here. Even though I pay a lot of tax, and I haven't gotten much for my taxes since we merged in '74, but that's all right. My children graduated here, and they're doing very well. I graduated here, and I think the emphasis should be put on education first, least protection, because we all need protection. Infrastructure, we need to extend the sewage to different places. Recreation, we need that. If you have people in a city, they need recreation. Have them something to do in their leisure time. All of this is important, citizens. But we should prioritize. That's all. I don't see we doing that in the city of Suffolk. And this woman has done a wonderful job. She has done a wonderful job. And her salary, yeah, is rather high as far as it was from the beginning. But from the beginning, we didn't pay her well, we didn't know what she could do. So I know what I'm saying. Some people don't want to hear it. But I believe the quality of teachers here would even be better if you had better salary, because better teachers would come here to teach. People don't want to be, and this is nothing against the firemen, but a fireman, my grandson can become a fireman right out of high school. He doesn't have to prepare himself to teach anyone, in their profession. So firemen here from the beginning salary is about $4,000 different than the beginning of a teacher's salary. That's pathetic. That's pathetic. Not that I want a fireman not to make no money, but I don't think it should be that close. Personally, I don't mind paying tax. I don't mind paying tax if it's used wisely, the money's used wisely. But I don't want to pay tax and don't get anything for it. I don't mean anything as an individual. I mean as a citizen of this city of Suffolk. To get the best education, the best protection, police protection, infrastructure, industrial, getting good jobs. I was reading on the internet that $10.42.
Mr. Whitmore, excuse me, your time has expired.
But anyway, $10.42 they were getting for $10.42. And we are bringing jobs here, $8 jobs.
Thank you, sir.
There's something wrong with that.
Next speaker.
Something wrong with that.